So hello everyone, I'm John Dunbar. I'm a retired orthopaedic surgeon. And I'd like to introduce Sally Miller, who had COVID 6 months ago and has come to see me because she's had persisting fatigue and a number of other symptoms since her COVID. So this is I'm going to just give you a little bit of background before we launch into the actual consultation. You'll be wondering, why, as an orthopaedic surgeon, am I doing a consultation on chronic fatigue? And I never envisaged myself doing this like a number of years ago, but I have become interested in helping people with chronic pain. And there have been huge advances in the neuroscience around pain in recent years. We understand pain now to be a warning signal when there has been some threat or damage to your body. Obviously, if you cut yourself, you don't want to be running around because you might cause further harm. So you'll experience pain and you'll stop running around. Fatigue can also be thought of as a warning signal. Not so much in the sense of a physical injury where we have pain, but if you suffer some illness, our body needs to recover from that. So fatigue's a warning signal to tell us to slow down and give our body a chance to recover and heal. In recent years, with neuroscience, with the help of neuroscience, we've made really great advances in helping people with persisting pain. And when we look at it, persisting fatigue following various states is quite similar to persisting pain. So it makes sense to me that we can apply similar principles to helping people recover from persisting fatigue as we do to persisting pain. And that's what this conversation is about. There's a caveat, though, that we have to always remember as doctors or health professionals that fatigue is an indication that there's something not right in the body. And it's very important to be sure that there isn't something seriously wrong with the body, and we need to do the appropriate tests to look for any cause of the fatigue. Often we can't find much, which is the scenario we're dealing with here. So I'm making the assumption that we're not overlooking some serious problem with Sally's body. There's serious dysfunction going on because of her symptoms, but her body itself is sound. So bear all that in mind, and let's go. Sally,
Hi.
Back to you.
Hi.
Great to see you again. So I've listened very carefully to your story.
Thank you.
Over the past 20 minutes or so, but I've made some notes as we've done that, and I'd like to just repeat the story back to you for all of our benefit, but particularly yours and mine, just to make sure we are on the same page, okay? So,
Great.
So you had, you're an accountant.
Yeah.
Yes. You had COVID 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And since then, your body's been misbehaving really badly.
Yeah, in all sorts of very unpleasant ways, yeah.
Yeah. So the first of those is the fatigue. You're very fatigued. You're back at work, but only 3 days a week, 3 mornings a week.
Yeah, that's my best time of the day. Yeah.
You go home, have a sleep in the afternoon.
Often I do.
Yes. You have had to hand over a lot of the housework tasks and cleaning and things and cooking to your husband. Is that right?
Yeah.
So fatigue's a big problem.
Yeah.
And along with that fatigue, you haven't been able to do the things you enjoy. So I understand you quite like to go for walks on the beach.
Yeah, I do. I do. But it's quite physically hard work, working, plowing through the sand.
Yeah. So that's really hard. Can you do that at all at the moment?
Very little.
Yeah.
I try to find places where I can see the water because it helps me.
You like water?
I do.
Relaxing for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
You get quite breathless with just minimal activity. It must be a bit scary.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel at this age I shouldn't be getting breathless at doing very little movement.
You normally see yourself as quite a fit person?
Yeah, I try to eat well and all those things and try to get my sleep, but that's all over the place as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've talked about your fatigue. But there are quite a number of other secondary things that run along with that. So the sleep is one. Your sleep's terrible. Did you used to be able to sleep okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would sleep and then get up and feel ready for the day and refreshed.
Yeah.
And now I don't. And even though my husband says, I hear you snore,
That's pretty harsh.
I hear him snore too. But it's actually, you know, I seem to be sleeping, but I don't feel refreshed anymore.
No. And you mentioned your bowels being a bit irregular.
Yeah. It's all a bit like out of whack. That's how it feels. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing, you wake up and you're feeling quite stiff and sore in the morning.
Yeah, especially in the back, in the lower back, and it takes me ages to get going. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are the main symptoms, aren't they? We covered most of them. The fatigue, the inability to exercise as you'd like.
I just can't really concentrate for a long time as well. Like in the morning when I've done the accounting work, I really need a break. And I'm really looking forward to my lie down. And it's frustrating because I did used to function quite well like that. Bit of a perfectionist really, but so it's quite hard to take.
Hi, I'm sure. Well, tell me a little bit more about yourself. You just told me you're a perfectionist. How do you see yourself?
Well, I'm a perfectionist, I guess, but I never seem to get anything perfectly done.
That'd be incredibly frustrating for you as a perfectionist.
It's tiring, literally. Yeah.
I imagine as an accountant, you know, your whole life's about making sure the figures balance and it all comes out right. And
Yeah. I mean, that is a realm that comes quite easily to me, luckily. But it's still really a lot more exhausting than it used to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your father died early.
Yeah, he was an alcoholic. He was, he drank a lot.
Yeah. Do you think his life and death has had an influence on the way you see yourself and the way you like to run your life?
It wasn't nice growing up with an alcoholic parent. It was hard to see it on us and to see my mother suffer. But yeah, I don't drink. As a result of that, I hardly ever touch it. Doesn't give me the pleasure it might seems to give to other people.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Yeah. How about as an accountant, you that's a very precise kind of occupation to me.
Yeah.
But I can see that, and you like to have control of those figures and make sure everything adds up. I sense that you don't have a lot of control of your life at the moment. I think that's pretty obvious.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah. It's frustrating. Tell me about some of the other emotions associated with that.
I'm feeling a little bit desperate, to be honest, because I do worry about whether this is going to linger and become chronic fatigue. And I do, I've tried, within my knowledge, I've tried to just push through it and do it nevertheless. And I was working for 5 full days a week and would not rest and just do what I used to do, but that didn't go down well at all. So then I tried the opposite. I took 2 full weeks off, rested a lot, and then went back to it gently, but that didn't seem to change much either. So I feel like I'm somewhere in between. I'm in limbo. Everything feels out of whack. I have no control. Nothing seems to add up, whatever I do. And it's, I'm just exhausted and tired, no matter what.
And it's a bit of a scary thought to think that you actually took the time off and you still didn't feel any better.
Yeah,
so
that is scary.
The hard thing to figure out is, well, how do we get rid of this type?
And I've heard of this really scary sounding chronic fatigue. So I do worry whether I'm slipping down that slope.
Yes, there's a lot of negative vibes out there about chronic fatigue at the moment, and I totally get where you're coming from. But that's why you're here, and I'm so excited to see you because I think I can help you a lot.
Oh, really?
I want to give you an explanation for what's happening, and because your story is actually very common. There are many people who have gone down the same pathway as you following COVID, but who have recovered. Right?
Really?
So I just want to see if we can explain things to you so you can turn yourself around and you can recover like a number of other people. And that's been my recent experience. In fact, as an orthopaedic surgeon, I haven't had a lot of experience in chronic fatigue, but I've been working with a couple of people recently, both of whom have done really well with the kind of explanation I've given them. So
That could be amazing, yeah.
That's really exciting for me. The second thing is that we can take heart from the fact you've had all those blood tests. You went to the GP, I know. GP's done all the appropriate blood tests, so we know that your body is actually functioning well.
Okay.
I had to... underneath the symptoms, your body...
The results.
The results from the blood test tell us that there's nothing wrong with your blood system and your thyroid gland and those kind of things.
That's great.
There. I mean, so that's encouraging. So
it's a relief.
So let's start with this explanation. Can you think of a time in your life where you've been under a lot of pressure?
Yeah, when I was studying. Yeah, exam time.
Yeah.
And Dad was really unwell with his alcohol illness. And there was a lot on my plate, a lot going on.
So tell me, how did that affect you? What do you remember?
It felt stressful. It felt, yeah. I mean, I ploughed through it because I do, because I can. Or better, I was able to.
Yeah. Well, we all get through, don't we? But when I look back at my exam time too, similar to you probably, and I can think of the sorts of problems that I had then. Like I remember studying for my medical exams, I would be eating the same, yet I'd lose weight. So I was burning up a lot of energy through that stress response. But tell me a bit more about how did the stress manifest itself for you back then?
Tension headaches, tension just in my body, all sorts of, tight shoulders because I was a lot on the computer. A bit of, unsteady puku, kind of. Sleep was a bit wobbly, but, that kind of stuff. That's how it felt, There's quite a similarity. Well, what you're telling me symptoms that you have now, really. Had you ever thought about that? You may not have had the fatigue so much back then, because I was younger.
But probably had a bit more energy. But you can't afford to be fatigued when you're sitting in exams. You just have to get the work done. But those other things that happen to your body, similar to what's happening now. Had you thought about that?
I haven't, but actually it does. Yeah, it makes sense. It's similar, some of it. Yeah,
it's similar, but not exactly the same. But that suggests to me that you're currently stuck in another stress response, because it makes sense that when you have COVID, your body's going to mount a response to that, which involves activating all those stress response mechanisms to fight the COVID. But for one reason or another, which I'll help explain to you, that state seems to have persisted even though you don't have COVID anymore.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is it still lingering? This is strange.
Well, good number of reasons, but I'll paint the big picture and then I think it'll be more clear to you. We don't always have control of that, you see. So if you think about it, the stress response is generated in our subconsciousness. Okay. Like, you don't just say, I think I'll do stress. Like, I'm not, that doesn't bring on stress. But you put yourself in a certain circumstances, or you think a certain way about, I haven't done enough study for this exam, or I'm going to fail, and if I fail, this is going to happen. That's what generates the stress response.
Sure.
But the stress response comes from somewhere it's an automatic thing that just sort of gets switched on by the way you think about things.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And then emotions are kind of similar, aren't they? You've told me about your frustration. I jotted down a few other things. Your desperation,
Yeah.
the fact that you're feeling pretty helpless about things.
Yeah.
Nothing's working.
Yeah.
Those are what I call all the negative emotions. Like those are emotions we don't like to experience.
No.
Like we want to feel in control,
Oh,
happy.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But like with the numbers.
but you don't just sit here and say, "Oh, I think I'll be desperate."
No. No.
Like it doesn't. But you think of, but you put yourself again in a circumstance which is very difficult to deal with, and that creates a desperation. But the emotion is generated somewhere below our consciousness, and I like to think about it as, well, we all know. You've heard the term probably. The seat of our emotions is in our subconscious. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay.
So what I'm really saying to you is that there's a lot going on in your subconsciousness that is not happy with things and is feeling stressed and worried and anxious and all that kind of thing.
Definitely not happy. Yeah.
Yeah, and our subconscious is extremely powerful. It essentially runs our body for us. Because when you think about it, if you go to sleep at night, your heart keeps beating, and your tummy's not working very well at the moment, but normally it would be digesting your dinner so that you're hungry for breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
Keeps you breathing,
Yeah.
regulates your temperature for you, does everything.
It's amazing.
It will even roll you over. Like if you lie in one place for too long, you can roll over and get the pressure off that side. You don't have to wake up to do that. How does that happen?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Anyway, so that's the power of the subconscious. Now I've got another weird question for you.
Okay.
Have you ever ridden an elephant?
No.
What about a horse?
Oh, a pony and a kiddie birthday party a long time ago. Yeah. Okay.
Well, the reason I asked about the elephant, because that's a big animal, all right?
Okay.
So a pony is not very big, but I think the analogy will still hold.
I was little, so.
Okay, well, a
counts.
little person on a big pony.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Okay, so imagine you're sitting on the pony, and the pony represents your subconsciousness, and you're the rider. Sitting on the pony is your conscious self. Okay.
Okay.
And the pony, for one reason or another, is running a big stress response. And the pony is harbouring a whole lot of negative emotions, like fearfulness and anxiety and desperation and frustration, all those things you told me about.
Yeah. Poor pony.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. Well, how much control are you going to have over the pony?
Zero.
Like you have no control. The pony's
It'll
going to
just
do what it wants.
go.
It's going to take you down some pathway that you have no control over. So I think that to me is a good way of thinking about where you are at the moment. Can you relate to that?
Poor pony.
Yeah. But you told me before too that when you feel fatigued, you sometimes try and push through.
I did try it, but it didn't work, so I stopped doing that. But
Yeah. So that was quite sensible to stop, because that's like flogging the pony to try and make them do what you want to do. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
If you continue that analogy.
Yeah. Okay.
But you realise that anyway. So that
I had to. She
So-
just didn't do it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Nothing really. Well, you just make it worse, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you do? You're the little girl sitting on the pony who's stressed, worried, anxious, all those things. What are you going to do to help the pony along?
Well, calm down in a way that the pony can feel my calmness and then actually respond to what I wanted to do. So how do I calm down?
Well, what about the pony? Can you do anything to help the pony? I mean, you can calm down. I think that's very helpful, because we all know that.
Stroke it.
Yeah, like horses tend to sense. If you sit on a horse and you're anxious and uptight, then the horse will sense that and it's going to do its own thing.
Yeah.
That's been my experience.
Yeah.
So, you can calm yourself, but we can also be nice to the pony.
Yeah.
Give
it a carrot and stroke it.
Yeah. So what we've arrived at is that I think the first thing that people can do to help themselves when they're in a state and burning up their energy, when they're stressed out state and with all these unhelpful emotions, is they can learn to calm themselves down and also calm their subconscious.
Right.
People think, well, how do we influence our subconscious? But we can by our actions in the same way as sitting on the horse. If we calm our anxiety, the horse will feel calmer, because horses are very receptive to the anxiety of the rider.
Yeah, they are.
So the message will trickle through.
Yes, yes.
That make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Mm. So I think that's going to be a really good place to start. And we can talk about ways in which we can help you calm down the stress response and calm down some of those unhelpful emotions.
Okay.
So there's a lot of detail that we can build in around that. And we won't be able to cover all that today, but I made a few notes about some of the things that and I'll give you these notes to take.
Thank you. I was just going I should jot this
down.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you can read my writing. I have tried to practice to make it as neat as I can. But I'll give you these to take home so you can think about it, and then we'll meet again and fill in some of the detail.
Okay.
But the first of those is just in relation to the horse. We want to be kind to yourself and to the horse. So that means you don't beat yourself up about the fact that you're in this situation, because it's not your fault. It's just circumstance, and you're not alone. This is a very common problem. So
it's easy to forget that, really.
Well, yeah, but we do, because when you're feeling desperate and miserable and that's all you feel.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So just try and remember that. Don't be harsh on yourself. It's okay. The other things that you can do, I've jotted it here. Just keep it, even though there are limitations to what you can do, make sure you keep doing the things that you are capable of at the time and that you enjoy, because that keeps you in a happy place. Have you got other activities that you like doing that don't expend a lot of energy?
I used to, this was before my child was born, but I used to like sketching and drawing.
Oh, yeah? Well,
then I had the kid, and that went out the window, really. But that, I guess I could imagine getting back to that.
We don't have to do a lot, maybe, but it's totally up to you. Like, we don't want you to feel pressured by anything. We want you to be nice to yourself. If you feel like doing a little bit of sketching, that's okay, because it'll keep your mind elsewhere and not worrying so much about what else is going on in your life at the moment. And that is itself calming.
I just came across some sketches from earlier days and thought, oh no, this was a nice thing to be able to do. I might get back to that.
Okay, we'll see how you feel.
Because he's 16 now.
These are ideas, okay? Another thing is that, well, you can tell me if I'm right or not, but accountants, to me, would take a lot of pleasure in making sure the numbers all balance.
That's my job.
That's your job, and that's your goal. And if you are struggling to do that, then that creates frustration and then stress. So, I mean, I'm sure that you'll be making the numbers balance because that's what you do, but it's harder at the moment. So, again, don't stress about the fact that that's hard at the moment. And sometimes if you switch your focus to just achieving your satisfaction, not so much from your job at the moment, but by just being alive, the fact that you can walk outside and it's fresh air and the sun's shining.
Gratitude.
Be grateful for what you have. And sometimes people benefit from actually writing that down. Write down lists of what you're grateful for. That seems like a corny thing.
Or draw it.
Yeah, or draw it. Like, that would be ideal for you. You draw little pictures of what you're grateful for and you put them on the fridge like your kids do when they're little, and look at it every day. And you can see where we're going. You already, I can tell from the way you're behaving or the way you're responding. Like, you've got a smile on your face. Yes, you don't look stressed and worried. Yeah. So, those are some ideas, okay? There's a few more.
Okay.
There are specific things we can do to decrease the stress response. And you know all about, have you heard about adrenaline and cortisol and those kind of things?
Yeah.
Yeah. So adrenaline's produced by a sympathetic nervous system. That's the fight, flight response, when something happens. So you'll be having quite a lot of adrenaline running through your body at the moment. We quite often know that if our pulse is a bit faster. I've seen a lot of other people in your who have persisting fatigue following COVID who've told me that they notice their pulses faster. So that means they're running a high level of adrenaline and cortisol off, and that's the stress response that puts you on edge all the time.
Despite the tiredness.
But you started with tired. The tiredness was a natural response to your COVID. If you start generating a stress response following, continued stress response following that, it'll just keep you in that tired state, because even though you are running an extra adrenaline, you'll stay in that tired state because that's what your body's doing at the time.
Yeah.
It might be a bit confusing, but anyway, we can do things to diminish the sympathetic nervous system response, and those are very simple things. You've probably heard about abdominal breathing, have you? Yeah, there's two ways of breathing. One is like that. That's what we do to get ourselves ready to fight somebody.
Okay.
So that just stimulates your sympathetic system. But the other way is you leave your chest alone and you breathe, you put your tummy out, and that sucks the air in. So that's diaphragmatic breathing. That's using the opposite to the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. That's like the calming system in your body.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just simple exercise like breathing can make a difference.
Can I learn that somewhere? I don't know if I could just do that.
No. Well, no, we can talk about that. And there are people who actually will teach you that.
Okay.
And we'll come back to that. Sally, you told me earlier on that you like water.
I love water.
Yeah. Well, being in water is one of the really good ways of calming down our sympathetic nervous system. So can you see ways, or some way that you could immerse yourself in some water? Do you have a swimming pool? Or?
No, I don't have a pool. I can't afford one, but it's too cold here too. But the Mosgiel pool, I've been a couple of times to. They have a nice warm physio pool there.
Yeah.
It's really nice, but it just takes a lot of energy to get me there. But once I'm in, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just even like the sound and the sight of water. And we're so lucky here with the beaches, so that's why I like my beach walks, honestly, but I can't do them at the moment. So, however, I found the seat out at St Clair.
You can sit on
there to the seat, to the bench, and it's a little walk.
Yeah.
And I can sit there in the sun and look at the water, and that also actually helps quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things come out of that. One is just the floating in the water. Do you have a bath?
I do have a bath.
We could just have a nice bath.
Yeah.
And then you can look forward to the opportunity when you're better, or getting better as you get better, going to the Mosgiel pool. Yeah, I've been out there. It's quite a nice pool.
It's quite lovely.
And I can totally get what you say about sitting there by St Clair, because it's wonderful watching that ocean rolling in. That's incredibly calming, and it just distracts, it keeps all those unhelpful thoughts. So
it helps. It's really cleansing and calming.
You're right. So I think that's a great idea. That's not going to burn up energy at the moment. And then as you get better, you're about to go for your walk on the beach. So that's a temporary thing. So you know the kind of what we're getting at too. Some people like music. Some people like doing rhythmical things like Tai Chi or yoga. Those are all calming activities. So what you choose to do is pretty much up to you. It's based on what you enjoy doing, really.
I've actually been meaning to give yoga a go. Maybe I never had time, but maybe it's time to try it out.
People always say, busy people say they never have time for anything. But if you look at the big picture, you're not much good as you are realising now if you're not fully fit and able to participate in life normally. So, I think yoga would be, we can talk about that again too. That would be a good option.
Okay.
We talked about the emotions. Those will wear you down, those unhelpful emotions. So if we can knock them on the head a little bit, you've got good reason to feel like that, but if we can keep them from intruding on your thoughts too much, that itself will be quite helpful. Ways that I think about of doing that are using a mindfulness approach. Do you know about mindfulness?
How?
Mindfulness to me is where it's got a number of components, but one of the most important ones is just recognizing the thoughts that come into your head and accepting that that's the thought I have at the moment, but not passing judgment on it and not going down some rabbit hole because of that thought, but just letting it float on by and you carry on with some other activity. So in other words, if you suddenly feel a sense of complete helplessness,
Yeah.
the next thought can be, oh no, what say I never get over this, and I've got no idea how I'm going to get right. You can see it like you just descending down
the luge.
Yeah. So that's not helpful.
Yeah.
So when you feel helpless, you think, well, my mind is, some part of me is telling me I'm helpless at the moment, but but then you recognise that and you say, yeah, but I've got a plan.
So it feels like detaching myself.
Yeah. You detach yourself from those unhelpful emotions and you recognise them as just thoughts, but put them into perspective and say, yeah, but I've actually got a plan and I don't actually need to feel that helpless at the moment because you're going to have me to help you. I'm going to get you there.
Yeah.
Get you back to the life you want.
Okay.
So that's a way of dealing with some emotions. So I've jotted that down. You can go away and think about this too.
Thank you.
The last thing is to deal with the symptoms, which you can see what I've started with. We've got to deal with the big picture problem. Then we can focus on the symptoms a bit because there are things we can do for your fatigue and there are things we can do for your tummy and there are things we can do for your sleep.
Right.
Like there are techniques to improve sleep. You might benefit from some dietary advice because there may be some foods that are worse than others that you could avoid for a wee while to allow your tummy to settle down a bit. It's not the full answer, but it might help. And similarly, when it comes to dealing with the fatigue, you've already told me that pushing through just doesn't work. So what we have to do is come up with a plan where we keep you working within your limits. But as you continue to get better, we'll be able to expand those. But we just have to work with what we've got at the moment in terms of your energy level. So we need to set some targets around how much work you do, how much you go out, how much you walk, all those kind of things.
Yeah. I mean, I have already reduced my work hours from 5 days a week full time to 3 mornings. That's along those lines, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's very sensible. So we're just...
I have no choice, really, but yeah.
No, but
it's hard bowing to it. It's so hard to bow to that.
Yeah, I know, because that's not you.
Yeah.
But just at the moment, you aren't you, are you? Physically, you're not you, so we're going to have to change something and accept some limitations at the moment, right? It's temporary though.
Yeah.
And we'll make a plan so that you can see that maybe if you work, X number of hours one week, the next week we can build up to that plus a wee bit more.
Okay.
We'll get you back to where you want to be. Just be patient for now.
So it's like setting a goal, but we are moving slowly towards that within the capacities.
Yeah, so in medicine we have a name for that. That's called pacing, which is, what's what the name implies. It's keeping within your capacities, but having goals and gradually expanding what you do. So I've given you a little summary of the things we can do to get you better, help you get better. You'll realise that I can't just give you a pill or do something to make you better.
No.
But what I'm trying to do is give you the understanding so that you can help yourself get better. And I'll be there. You and I can work together till you get there.
Yeah.
What do you think of that idea?
It feels like I've got to do the work, really. I've got to figure out how to get there and actually really take one step at a time
Yeah.
without rushing and overtaking myself.
Yes. That's right. But I'm going to be here like the coach.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you. I've given you some ideas. You can expand those ideas to fit with your view of the world. And I'll be here just to help you. So what I think we should do today is I'll give you some of these notes I've made. You go home and have a look at them. Yep. Assimilate them in here. Sometimes to do that, it helps to explain it to your husband or your friend or whoever you like. The more you repeat what we've talked about, the more clear it becomes in your own mind.
Yeah.
What's going to help you.
Yeah.
And then perhaps we meet again in a week's time and we'll see how you're going.
Okay.
I would be hopeful that you'd be feeling a bit better already by then.
Yeah.
But no pressure, of course.
Already feels a little bit like I feel less stuck already. Because there's a plan.
Yes. Having a plan gives you hope for the future. Yeah. Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'll take those notes.
Here we go. Right. Anything else you want to ask me about today or any other questions or?
Yeah, I guess I have to just read what you offer or think of and then see how it lands with me and
Okay. Well, we'll set that time up for a week's time. I'll look forward to that.
Cool.
I think you're going to do well. Here you go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow, exciting.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I'll see you.
Yeah.